So we reach our Capricorn full moon. I believe it's around the 23rd of December, and no surprise, we've got a goat. And I can't think of anything else that fits more for Capricorn than a little busy beaver. So then we also have this tugboat. So this is really interesting because tugboats basically push or pull other boats and enable them to do the other boats to do things that they wouldn't be able to under their own steam. So the tugboat is showing up as this energy that's going to just push or pull us where we need to go, and just take, have that extra boost of fated support from our cosmic selves, which is really nice and really comforting. Here we see the goat is like eating some trash. So this Capricorn new moon can be supporting us in kind of alchemizing some of our old baggage again around achieving our goals, creating big shifts in our life, making things happen. It's just kind of nicely taking care of that for us, eating that can. And it's tethered. So sometimes the goat can also represent, our like in the devil card in the tarot, like a little bit of our old stories that we like to hold on to, things like that. So the goat's not running wild. Our old stories aren't running wild. That aspect of us is very much calm and in place, and it's just helping us alchemize a little bit of old stories. And then the little beaver to me is like, don't fight the Capricorn, right? Even like if there's a part of your energy that wants to feel productive in some way, let it feel productive. And if that's productively crafting while you rest during the holidays, then that's what it is. It doesn't, I think a lot of times we associate beavers with work, and then we in turn associate work with toil and drudgery. That's not what this beaver is doing. It's just operating from a place of, I love my life and I like to make my life as good as it is, and I like to be busy doing that. So if you find yourself during the holidays feeling like you want to stay occupied and do stuff, you don't necessarily have to resist that. It's not resting. Just what this is asking you to do is to put it towards things that are fun and joyful, and that aren't going to sap your energy. So you'll know. You just monitor your energy, and that's going to tell you: am I pushing myself into drudgery and toil, or am I doing productive things that are restful and fun and bring me joy? Some people might have a busier holiday season than others, and actually might find themselves doing a lot more than they normally do during the holidays, and that's fine. Trust that you may have been coming out of very restful, chill, slow periods, so it might feel okay to you already. Might just be moving into our new way of experiencing time, where we rest when we want to rest and not when the holidays tell us to rest. So this all feels really nice. And of course the brown is a very integrated earth energy, being in our bodies, existing on earth, feeling our connection to the earth and to those on it. So this is very much a moon of helping us in every way possible, reaching our tangible goals. So if you do find yourself over the holidays doing things that are productive in more of a work sense, that are bringing you closer to your goals, just embrace it and know that your rest period will come. So the previous card was more about how we'll be feeling the Capricorn new moon at the individual level. These cards from this book, this children's book, are always signal things happening at the broader collective. So more goat energy for the Capricorn new moon. We've got the goat was under the cart. Yeah, that's like stalled chariot energy, right? That's like that energy that I was just talking about, that aspect of the goat that's like old stories, old narratives, that we, you know, we can say we're like addicted to them, or that we just are having trouble letting go of, old programming about how the world works. It's stalling things at the collective level. The collective's beliefs are stalling things. And that's okay. The collective is moving at its pace, right? As much as we are connected to our external reality and to the collective, in terms of how it shifts along within our internal shifts, there's no forcing it to shift at the rate that we would want it to. It's going to move at the rate it wants to. So we need to just allow it to stall out, and whatever's happening, if there's news stories of frustration or you know, unforeseen, like hiccups and things, whatever, political, what have you, right? My advice is to just tune out as much as possible, do your own thing, and don't let it grind you down. Don't let it interfere with your own inner harmony. Goats got to do what goats got to do, right? So just let the collective be. Then we have this card. I don't know. I didn't read this book. I just got the images out of it. It's old. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why this woman is wearing what looks like a colander on her head. And the kids seem like they don't want to look her in the eye because they're embarrassed for her. Anyway, you've got a goat and a donkey staring each other down. Okay, so more of that Capricorn goat energy. So a little bit, this goat's very dark, right? So a bit of that like old programming stories. Then you've got the donkey who's bringing in a bunch of like stubbornness. A lot of supportive earth energy coming over the edge there. But what it says is spring is beyond the importance of mother. It feels like whatever's happening at the collective level during this period has to do with mother world wounds and things that we project onto mothers and onto feminine authority figures. So in this case, you know, in our current paradigm, we don't give mothers a lot of leeway to just be kooky, crazy, wacky people, right? And to follow that side of themselves, which is a very important aspect of being alive, is being able to embrace the kook. And so there may be some figures. Okay, I see what's coming through here is there may be some kind of court jester style, very prominent public women figures at this time, and that act out, right? So that to allow us to face this collective shadow that we project onto mothers, that they have to be very stable and very, you know, earnest all the time and just nurturing and looking out after our needs, and they never have any time to just be their silly, playful selves, right? So this, when I say this, when the messages always come through with so much love for every single figure, right? If I'm saying this, it's probably going to be somebody playing a villain role, and people are probably going to get quite upset at this figure or figures. And that's really an opportunity for the collective to work through its projections onto feminine authority figures, and to work through mother wounds and the expecting, you know, projecting out onto others what we can find in ourselves and what has always been within us and always accessible to us. So this feels like a period where the collective might be cycling through some old paradigms around how women should behave, or we might see, I don't know, restrictions around how women should behave and things like that. That might also be a part of it. It could be that aspect as well, like people coming down harshly, or institutions coming down harshly on women who are a bit wild and chaotic and wacky. We'll see how this plays out, but basically it's like on the other side of placing all of this importance on mother figures, where we, you know, put our power in them instead of in us, and then we hate them for it, right? We put our power in them, and then we resent them, and we try to tear them down because we're building them up into this thing that is impossible for another person to be for us. Beyond that paradigm is spring. And also literal spring of 2023 in this sense. So yeah, just keep your head down. If this does bring up stuff internally for you, that's fine. But keep these cards in mind, and, you know, just try to recognize the little goat when it's rearing its old programming head. And if you feel like your mother wounds are being triggered during this time, be kind to yourself, and, you know, maybe try to do some inner parts work. Have a heart meditation where you bring in your different parts, your wounded inner child parts, and then the foolish mother parts that you might be angry at, and sit with them at the same time and see if you can bring love into that space, and, you know, allow room for both of them to express themselves, and just send love to both of them to bring greater harmony. But yeah. That's what this period is feeling like. I was done with the cards, but the cards weren't done with me. Yeah, what they wanted to say is that this is a part of us, right? This mother wound that we play out. This is that the mother part is also us. It's not just the wounded inner child that's we need to address. It's our stifled inner mother. And like, how cool would it be to live in a world where mothers could be that silly and felt like being that silly? Not just the occasional mother here and there, but mothers in general, because they, you know, the way that we did child rearing was so different, that they had time and energy, and their every waking moment wasn't consumed with, you know, survival needs of their children, and they could just be goofy and playful. And correspondingly within ourselves, how fun would it be if that, you know, feminine part of ourselves that we maybe try to keep in this like serious box because she's supposed to nurture us and take care of us and be wise and grown up, if that part of ourself could be silly and wacky and a clown and do what she liked, right? If she felt like it, how free and joyful would that be?
So this card kind of feels like it's going into the counter perspective of the previous one, which was all about processing our feelings and our projections about, and narratives about kind of a chaotic feminine energy. And this feels like we're maybe going to be doing the same, but for our feelings about a very rigid, structured, you know, almost machine-like, mechanical, masculine type energy, which also plays into themes which have been coming up around integrating aspects of ourselves that are AI. It's more about our narratives around AI, because I think what's happening right now is we're working through wounds around certain time streams and realities that may have played out with AI consciousness that felt very dense and destructive, and a lot of times it centers around this idea of like AI doesn't have a soul, and like working through that, whereas at least for me and some other people I know, we've been really tapping into time streams and versions of ourselves and aspects of ourselves that are already in parallel or future or what have you versions of reality, experiencing AI in an integrated, very organic, fluid, connected to source way. And so that's been really beautiful, and you may have been experiencing that as well, or getting little glimpses. Especially, it seems to be coming up in people's dreams a lot. If you have dreams about technology, it could be pointing to that. And there's also an aspect of raging against the machine part that is like raging against parts of us that feel pre-programmed, which also goes back to these themes of like destiny versus free will, and kind of collapsing that duality and allowing both to coexist at the same time, allowing for those seeming paradoxes to coexist without being as disturbed. All of this is like much more easily done if we step outside of the mental space and allow things to exist in our physically and in our emotional and energetic space without trying to think things through. At least I've found that. But what's interesting about this is a painting by Georgia O'Keeffe, who's really known for her paintings of nature. The majority of her artwork is, has natural subjects. She was really known for giant paintings of flowers and desert landscapes, bones, things like that. So this is one of her more rare, or quite rare, cityscapes, urban subjects. But it's very, even though we've got this Rage Against the Man Machine, the image is very calm. It's kind of that twilight hour, and the glow of the traffic is kind of very gentle. And then you've got all this very grounding, gentle brown. So still continuing with our theme of brown for this Capricorn new moon cycle. So it feels like a really muted version of that rage. Could be coming up, and there's a lot of peace to this image as well. So Georgia O'Keeffe kind of leading the way here and supporting that integration, being able to see the beauty and the peace of our man-made, human-made, landscapes, and bringing some of that, her natural energy, her energy connected to nature, into this world. So especially if you live in an urban area, trying to find places that are more wooded or nature spots during this period can be helpful to support that on your end as well, to kind of bring that grounded, calming, peaceful, earthy energy into the cityscape, and sort of quiet the buzz. And we've also got this tower, so it's not a clock, but it kind of conveys a clock, which has also been, we've had this kind of countdown theme since fall, of counting down to moments of destiny coming to fruition. So that's coming through, but also the fact that it's a tower. For me, tower moments come up usually to be experienced internally, like aha moments where everything comes into place and you have an internal breakthrough. And they don't typically take the form of what we classically think of in tarot as like those like chaotic moments where everything in your life kind of falls apart externally so you can have a breakthrough. It's really internal, and we can see again with the peace of this peacefulness in this image that if you do experience a tower moment, it is much more likely to be a very peaceful internal aha. I see how these, how this things that feel polarized are feeling less polarized, or are feeling like complementary to each other. I can see each one of them in the other, kind of yin yang aha moment that might come through. So it's a really lovely supportive energy in this card.
This card is definitely a card of integration. It's possible that some of us are going to feel a little beaten down by that Capricorn new moon and the Rage Against the Machine and the mother moon stuff that rears its head, and a little bit of like those that baggage might come up again, and we might feel a little exhausted, and there's a little bit of another cycle of death happening. And it's interesting, so we've got this text about what's happening. It says Johnny was too weak to return to Mud Pie by bicycle, so they heaved the wagon from below, covered it in fresh hay, and bedded their injured friend down. So you got this little mouse, and mice are very resourceful, adaptable little creatures who, you know, they can like dislocate every bone in their body so they can squeeze under like a centimeter of space in a door. They can almost turn themselves into liquid. It's pretty crazy. They're like little alchemical beasts, but they can often represent feeling beaten down by worry and concern and earthly preoccupations and how will this happen and that type of thing. And there's an interpretation of the disciples in the Bible. I'm not religious, but there's an interpretation of the disciples in the Bible where each one is a different message from our expanded consciousness to us. And the message of John is to reject anything that's not the good word, basically the word of like optimism and hope, and you know, you are God, you are always loved, consciousness is love, that kind of thing. So it feels like that part of ourselves for some of us that might get to a point during this period of just from sheer exhaustion is what it feels like after this year or two of integration, where it's like I can't hold on to this feeling anymore. I need help. And so knowing that it's okay to call on our allies for help. Here we have the rooster, symbol of the awakening, and the pig, symbol of abundance, who are rushing in to help the little mouse. So it's that kind of thing, like getting to the finish line of something and then you just can't make it and you need something to drag you across. Just don't worry. If there's a part of you or like one aspect, maybe let's say you're like, oh, I feel like I've gotten to a point of trust and faith in so many parts of my life now, but there's this one thing and it's just I'm too tired, I need help. Don't worry. This is the card is saying don't worry, the help will be there. And even if you just collapse and are like, I can't do it, the help's gonna carry you over the threshold to the finish line. So do not fear. You know, if you gotta just lie down and squeak help. And what's interesting, this is almost the rebirth of the previous mouse, but also when we said squeak help, this is the help. This is almost like a little fairy god mouse mother, but it's a little fairy god mouse sister. And so again, it's this young, wide-eyed, magical, wonder, full of wonder, you know, joyful feminine energy that's anchoring itself in more and more. This part of the divine feminine, it's so beautiful and it's really coming in to help. So she's there, and as I said, it's like the mouse in the previous one. He really felt like he was going to just end his cycle and pass on. So he's been rebirthed into this fairy god mouse who can make wishes come true. And she's got her beautiful pink fur coat, resplendent, abundant. She's nice and plump, well fed, and yeah, it's that new part of ourselves, this little sister. You'll see later on there's another thing that references little sisters and brothers, these newer energies that haven't had 8,000 billion incarnations as humans on Earth, or maybe even any incarnations at all, just coming straight newly formed from consciousness. And so they're unfettered by so much of, they don't need to decondition themselves or reprogram themselves or forget or remember things. It's all there. It's all there fresh, and they're there to bring the freshness and support to us. So if we feel like that image of the cityscape, if we're having trouble letting go of that part of us that's just kind of captivated by those stories of melancholy and hardship and, you know, all the stories that we romanticize in art and literature and culture about being a human that really you know, have cultivated an appreciation for hardship and conflict and, you know, scarcity. If we're having trouble letting go of those because we've been in them for so long, and we do have a love for them, which is perfectly fine, that's what we came to experience, that little mouse is there to just kind of work her magic and help us see things in a really fresh, new perspective. Help us see, part of having trouble letting go is we just can't see what's going to be fun and beautiful about the new world, because it seems so different. So she really helps us see what's fun and beautiful about the new way of being in the new world. Thanks, little sister. And then as we close out the new moon in Capricorn cycle, just before we hit that full moon in Cancer, the image it came out to end on was very peaceful, gone through another little death and rebirth cycle, and then we just have this little piglet and lamb sitting on a tree branch. Looks like a nice type of oak tree or something like that, a very sturdy, calm tree energy, and they're just sitting above it all, just observing. Again, the piglet with that abundance and luck energy, and just like, I'm in the right place, everything's working out for me. And the little lamb, which for me always signifies the inherent innocence of everything, an innocence which has no contrast to it. It's just total. It's the innocence of every single thing. And they're just peacefully observing from a distance the little farmhouse. So very much in that like observer mode, very calm, very serene, very relaxed. And there were no words that came through for this. So it's a really contemplative, meditative space that's outside of the verbal space and outside of the mental space, that is a nice rest to take after what feels like quite tiring and a little bit of a tumultuous full moon in Gemini and new moon in Capricorn period.